What's going on, everybody? Welcome back into In Arturas We Trust, the Chicago Bulls podcast for fans, made by fans. I am Ross from Arturas Fan Club, as always, your humble host. I am here joined by a team of talented Bulls fans who have been helping me and helping all of us learn more about the team, discuss offseason moves, grade players for their season, just all kinds of great NBA Chicago Bulls related content on arturasfanclub.com/blog. Make sure to go check it out. But with me today, I have Riley. He's at Daniel Tice Season on Twitter. Wrigley at Wrigley Court on Twitter. Davey at DXVY_MP4 on Twitter. Make sure to run that back to get that right. Nick at Famous Nick 123 on Twitter. And if you're watching on YouTube, all of their names and handles will appear on your screen magically. But how we doing, guys? Who's out there? Who wants to talk first?
We here.
We're
doing good.
Awesome. All right.
Yeah.
We've got some things to hit. We have a big day today. If you haven't heard, if you've been living under a rock, tonight is the NBA draft lottery. The Bulls have a chance, man. We got a chance to get that top 4 pick and keep the pick from the Vucevic trade. We'll get into that, though. There's a couple things we need to talk about before we get into the draft lottery. The biggest thing is a certain fella by the name of Benjamin Simmons, who plays for a team in Philadelphia. Now, the Philadelphia 76ers were eliminated, and Ben Simmons didn't take a shot in like 6 quarters, 44 minutes, something like that. Not a good look. Not a good look for Ben Simmons. Kind of went out sad. And obviously, because he went out sad, a lot of people are saying that the Bulls should trade for him. I don't know. Obviously, he has some issues to work through, but I wanted to throw this out to the floor. I'll kick it off with you, Riley. Ben Simmons, do you want him on your Chicago Bulls?
I do not want him on this team.
No. Don't want him on the team.
I want
Don't want Ben
Simmons. Salary.
So, all right, I think you cut out for a second there, but I heard salary. The contract for you is kind of the non-starter.
Yeah, I still want him to take that on.
Yeah, that's fair. Wrigley, what do you think? Ben Simmons, where do you land?
Yeah, like Riley said, I mean, he's a good player. He's a top 3 defender. He could really set up this offense with his passing and all that, but that contract is terrible. It goes on for a long time. It's just, I don't know if it's worth it. Considering we'd have to give stuff up for him too. Right.
There is something to be said for the fact that the Sixers might have to give up a pick to get rid of him. But to the contract point, he's going to be making $40 million in 2024, I think. It goes up by like $3 million every offseason. It's gross. It's not a fun contract. Davey, how do you feel about one Ben Simmons?
I agree with the first two. I don't want him. First, because of the assets, and then the contract.
Yeah. Okay, I mean, we're all kind of on the same page here. Nick, do you have a dissenting opinion, or do you feel kind of the same?
I'm 50-50 on it.
Yeah? What would it take? What would it take for you to get him? Like, what would you feel comfortable with giving up to get him?
If we could keep Kobe, I'd do it for sure. But other than that, I know we have to give up Kobe. So
yeah. Okay, let me pitch this to you guys. What if we were able to swing something like Sato, Aminu, and a sign and trade for Laurie? Would you do it?
I would.
I'd do it.
Yeah?
Definitely. Yes.
It's worth it at that point.
Okay.
We're not using any of those guys next season.
Yeah, that's true. I think you'd still have to give up a pick probably. I wonder what that pick would look like. I mean, if you want to do like a 2025 lottery protected, I mean, that's still pretty safe, you know? Lottery protected? Are you guys totally against trading a first for Ben Simmons?
I mean, if it's lottery protected, yeah.
Lottery protected, good. I'm cool with it.
Okay. All right, for sure.
I just don't want to do it.
So, all right, let me put this out on the floor. If it's not the Bulls and it's not the Shanghai Sharks, because I do think that Ben Simmons still has value as a player. What teams do you guys think would make sense for him to go to?
This is unrealistic, but I'll do a swap with Minnesota
And D'Angelo Russell goes to the Sixers.
Oh.
And then Ben goes to Minnesota. Then Cat gets some defense on his side. Embiid get another player he can rely on to score the ball. I feel like that's an even trade. The money fits. But I don't know if they're going to do that, though, because Cat is best friends with D'Lo. So.
I was going to say, I thought they were really good buds. Yeah, it's an interesting fit. I've been kicking around the idea of the Trailblazers. I feel like Dame and him could be a really solid fit next to each other. And then if you want to send CJ back to the Sixers, that trade to me feels like the most natural fit. I don't know. What do you, Riley, Wrigley, Davey, what do you guys think? Any teams that you think Ben Simmons could realistically go to?
I'm going to go out on a limb and say the Cavaliers. Oh. Like those Colin Sexton rumors, they might try to package him and some other players in for Ben Simmons. Also probably the Knicks because they have the same exact needs as we do. So
yeah, the Knicks. Yeah. I made a joke about how Ben Simmons obviously isn't valuable anymore because nobody's making Lakers and Knicks jersey swaps with him in them. But the Knicks might actually, I don't know, maybe not be a horrible fit. They still have some moves to make because they got so much cap space. But
they need floor space now.
I was gonna say, like if they're gonna get Ben Simmons, they better pair him with a really good 3-point shooter. Because Julius Randle is not gonna do what he did this season again, and they're gonna need some scoring from somewhere else on that starting lineup. Ben Simmons, I think I'll just give my quick opinion because I let you guys. I don't really want him. I still think he has value. I think he is a talented young player, but I don't want to take on the gamble of that contract. The way I look at it is like you're gambling that he grows into a $40 million player, $40 million per year player. And I don't think he will. So that's a big gamble to take. I'm just not interested in it. But I mean, I guess if you were able to get a sweet deal, like we know the Wizard AK could potentially do, maybe you do it. I just feel like he doesn't fit the Bulls' philosophy overall. But that's a good transition for us because we have something big to talk about, which is the point guard position. And obviously for the Bulls, that is a big area of need this offseason. So if it's not going to be Ben Simmons, it's going to have to be someone. Kobe White is hurt. Kobe White will not be there to start the season for the Bulls. And even before that injury, the Bulls were already in need of a point guard. So we are looking at the entire field of upcoming free agents, trade options, hell, even rookies coming up in that draft lottery we're going to talk about. So launching this morning on arturasfanclub.com/blog, we have a really great article written by our guys, Riley and Wrigley, going over all of the possible point guards the Bulls can target this offseason. We're going to hit a few of the key ones, but make sure to go read that article to see the full list of point guards. These guys did a great job analyzing, breaking down the fit, how these guys have been playing, strengths, weaknesses, all that kind of stuff. We're going to kick it off with a guy who is technically in the playoffs, but isn't playing right now, in Chris Paul, who is expected to decline his player option and potentially open up to the free agent market this offseason. I'll start with you, Wrigley. Chris Paul, how do you feel about the Bulls going after him?
Usually I wouldn't want my team to sign a 36-year-old to a really long-term deal, but CP's game has just really aged well, and he would make this team so much better. I mean, he gives us everything we're looking for in a point guard.
Yeah.
He's really helped out the Thunder and the Suns these last 2 years. I think the Bulls could have a leap like the Suns did this year if we got Chris Paul.
And that's a great comparison. Looking at what Devin Booker did, from the year before, taking big strides, and then with Chris Paul becoming a playoff team, and now, a conference finals team, potentially an NBA finals team. You look at Zach LaVine and say maybe he could have that same kind of jump. Nick, I know that you got some takes on Chris Paul. What do you think about the Bulls going after him?
I'm all for. I mean, who don't want CP3?
Yeah.
Do I think it's going to happen? No, but I'm all for it.
That's fair. Yeah, I can't say for sure it could happen, but the Billy Donovan connection is there. Riley, question for you, man. In terms of money, what do you think Chris Paul would, one, what would he take? And two, what would the Bulls be willing to give him?
I think you said he wanted a 3-year, $100 million deal, which I'm not sure that's in the Bulls range at all as far as prices for Chris Paul.
Yeah. And that takes him to 39 years old, which is in the NBA, in any sport, that's not young. His game will continue aging gracefully just because of the style of basketball he plays. But yeah, I mean, a 39-year-old point guard. I don't know, Davey, what do you think? Would you give Chris Paul that much money?
Absolutely. I mean, it's kind of hard for me not to. I'm a big Chris Paul fan, and just seeing how he elevates a team, it would be amazing. Like the way that Booker took it to the next level, the way Shea and Diallo took it to the next level, the way James Harden was able to get some slack off of him, the way he's improved almost basically every single team that he's been on.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's kind of hard not to try to go for him.
Yeah. It's also been interesting watching this season as some of the narratives around him kind of fade away. Like, he used to be considered a choker, which, I mean, now that you look at what Doc Rivers did in Philadelphia, you start to say, well, was he the choker or was Doc Rivers the choker back in Los Angeles? So I do think Chris Paul has a ton of value and is probably worth the 3 years, $100 million. We'll see what the Bulls end up doing with their contracts this offseason, if they're able to shed some salary and make some room. If they signed him to that deal, I wouldn't be mad at the beginning. I'd be ecstatic that we could make a finals run. And then, around year 2.5, I'd start to be like, oh, shit, this kind of sucks. But who knows, man? The next guy that we've all been talking about all off season and probably won't stop talking about anytime soon is Lonzo, the Ball brother, Ball. Lonzo is such an intriguing option because he is young. He is not he's not necessarily going to get a max contract. Someone could max him. The Knicks could do that, but he probably won't. And he has a ton of potential still while already being a talented player. I'll kick this off with you, Nick. Lonzo Ball, yes or no? Just what do you think?
I'm all for it, Lonzo. Like, that's who I want. I take Lonzo over Ben. Not that I think he's a better player, but I feel like Lonzo he can space the floor for us, defend, defense, play make. He's younger and he's going to be cheaper than Ben Simmons. I take Lonzo. He's my number one option. Well, CP3, but realistically, I take Lonzo.
Yeah, I mean, I think Lonzo for me is still plan A. Riley, what do you think? Lonzo Ball, yes, no? How much? Let's frame the conversation like this, because I think anyone would take Lonzo Ball on their team. Riley, what would be a realistic offer sheet you would give to Lonzo Ball?
Probably 4 years, $100 million, somewhere around there.
Say that again?
4 years, $100 million.
4 years, $100 million. Okay. Now, do you think New Orleans would match that?
They said they didn't want to match anything over $20 million, so I wouldn't be surprised they don't.
Yeah, and I know that that's been thrown around, and I think my perspective on it lately has been, I don't know, because it's more advantageous for the team to say, oh, we're not going to match anything over this amount, so you might as well not give him anything over this amount. And then, they get a bunch of low ball offer sheets, and then they sign him to an offer sheet that, is way lower than maybe if they had driven the price up. So I mean, that might just be a bunch of smoke and mirrors. Wrigley, what do you think? Would you execute a sign and trade to avoid the whole offer sheet situation? And what would you offer to get Lonzo?
I would try to do a sign and trade. I mean, if we can avoid overpaying him, that's always a really good thing to do. But I wouldn't want to give up too much in a sign and trade. I don't think you should be giving up too much in a sign and trade, because I don't think the team giving up the player has that much leverage at that point. I'd be willing to give him Markkanen. I'd be willing to maybe throw in Sato or something like that. But I'm not giving up like Kobe or anything like that.
I'm with you on that. I don't want to give up Kobe. And I'll open that to the floor. I'll start with Davey because I haven't gotten to you yet. But Davey, would you give up Kobe for Lonzo?
No, I wouldn't give up Kobe for Lonzo. I'd have to it would probably be like Laurie in an exchange of picks or something. And they'd probably give us Eric Bledsoe too to get rid of some cap. match the cap.
Yeah. So we probably would have to take on that contract, which would mean we'd have to stretch Sato and Amino if they didn't want to take those contracts. Is there anyone here who would give up Kobe for Lonzo? Any of you guys? Nah. All right. It's good to be Yeah, it's good to be with good company, because I would not personally give up Kobe White. I am a big fan of the idea of going 3 guards deep, doing like a Lonzo, Kobe, Zach lineup with Pat and Vooch in the front court. Personally, obviously, I know that there are a lot of people out there that still doubt Kobe White, and with some justification, but for the most part, I still think he has a lot of potential. Another guy on this list that is more in line of like a CP3 kind of player is Mike Conley. And obviously, he had injuries throughout the playoffs. It's kind of in and out of the lineup. But is very dependable, experienced, obviously veteran in this league, played for the Grizzlies for a long time. I'll start with you, Wrigley. Mike Conley, yes or no? Just not even getting into contracts yet. Would you be okay if Mike Conley was the big free agent acquisition for the Bulls this offseason?
I'd probably go CP3 or Lonzo before him, but after that, he's probably the best guy available. Kyle Lowry is obviously another great option, but
yeah,
Conley's just a dependable guy. He's aging well. He was an all-star for the first time this year, which was
right.
Kind of weird to see when he's like 33. But he's having some really good seasons with the Jazz. He's had a lot of experience in the playoffs with the Grizzlies, though he's never won a ring.
Right.
I think he'd be a great fit with the defense and the passing and everything.
Right. And, bringing up his age, he's younger than CP3, so he will age. I mean, you would hope, you'd get more out of him with that contract. Riley, in terms of a contract, I asked you about Chris Paul. Let's talk about Mike Conley. What do you think Mike Conley wants, and what would you be willing to give him?
I feel like he's probably looking for like a 3-year, $7 million deal. I'm not sure if the Bulls should give that to him or not.
Yeah. I think Wrigley put it best. I would probably start with Lonzo and Chris Paul. And if you strike out on those two, Mike Conley's a solid plan B/C, depending on, where Arturas kind of has his priorities. Nick, Mike Conley, yes or no? And what's a comfortable number that you would be willing to give him?
Mike Conley, I'm a no.
You're no?
Because I don't see him wanting to leave Utah, number one. And then two, it's like, what are we doing? Because we'd be a playoff team. We'd make the playoff with him.
Yeah.
But that's it. So, we're paying this guy that much money just to make the playoff.
That's a good point.
I feel like realistically, if we stay healthy next year and we get more practice time, we're making the playoffs, or at least a play-in. So I don't say we got to go get Mike Conley this bad just to be a playoff team.
Yeah. Yeah.
I say no.
And Nick, you bring up a good point with not being a finals contender just by signing Mike Conley. That's when you start to talk about the guys on the margins, like the younger, or not even younger, but more inexpensive options on the free agent market. And I know, Nick, you're a big fan of a guy like Torrey Craig. We're talking about point guards today, so we'll get into Torrey Craig in a different episode for sure. But you pass up the opportunity to give a guy like Conley a lot of money. So instead, you could spend money elsewhere and potentially invest in Kobe White, I guess, as the point guard of the future, maybe. Davey, what do you think? Mike Conley? Yeah? No?
I like the idea of Mike Conley. He's kind of like my third favorite next to obviously Chris Paul and Lonzo.
Yeah.
So I think that we should give him as much, not as much, but if we're able to get him for maybe 3 years, 78 million, something like that, around that range, then I think that would be good. Especially with the trade with Vucevic, I think we are in win now mode. So maybe a long-term point guard might not be the answer. I don't know.
That's a good point. Vooch isn't getting any younger. I mean, Zach isn't getting any younger. I think the appeal of Lonzo is that he's kind of in the same age range as Zach, where you can get them in their prime at the same time. Mike Conley's probably you could argue a little past his prime or right at the end of it. And Chris Paul, same thing, right at the end of it. So you could probably win. You could go either way. You could win now, or you could try to invest in a point guard who's around the same age as Zach. I think that's the problem with trying to make Kobe White the point guard of the future is like, okay, maybe he will be that guy in 3 years, but 3 years is too long from now. Like it needs to be now. But another good option, just keeping in line with the veterans who could be more win now, is Kyle Lowry, who obviously is an NBA champion, one of the best point guards in the last decade. Just extremely talented, seasoned vet who's been there, done that. Now he's at 35 years old, which for Kyle Lowry, 35 feels older than like a 33-year-old Mike Conley. You know what I mean? Like it feels like shit. He's already 35. Like Kyle Lowry's been around forever. So I'll open it up with you, Nick. Kyle Lowry, would you be comfortable with giving Kyle Lowry a bag for a win now move?
Well, if you say win now, I say yes to him and Conley. If we're like win now,
okay.
But them two, it just depends on Lowry. It depends on how much. That's really because I'm not like he's going to come here, do his job. He could be that vet.
Yeah,
he could be that leader. It really depends on how much money. So and how many years.
Say Conley and Lowry are willing to take the same amount. Who would you rather have?
Kyle Lowry.
Okay, Davey.
He got.
I was gonna ask Davey the same question.
Okay.
Personally, I'd rather have Conley. I feel like Lowry is like you were like Conley's kind of at the end of his prime or just out of it. I feel like Lowry will be past his prime by the time we make a championship run. Okay. So that's why I'm saying Conley. Otherwise, like prime for prime, definitely Lowry. But now I don't know.
Nick, I thought you were gonna say. I didn't mean to cut you off. Were you gonna say you'd rather have Lowry between the two of them? What were you gonna say about that?
Because Lowry won before. Like he has that championship DNA that he can bring to the young team.
Good point.
So yeah, and I just feel like longevity. I just feel like he's the guy you want on your team.
That's a good point. I forgot who it was. There was an NBA legend. There's so many of them that I saw on Twitter a few days ago. That was like, if you haven't been in the locker room of a championship winning team, you don't know what it's like. So like even if it's a veteran like Mike Conley, Kyle Lowry might have a different perspective as a guy who's been there, done that. Riley, what about you, man? Kyle Lowry, yes, no? What would you give him?
I definitely would like Kyle Lowry. He brings that championship experience. I think he's worth like a 2-year, $60 million deal.
Okay.
That range.
Yeah, I'm a fan of that. I like that idea. Wrigley, what do you think about the 2-year, $60 million deal for Lowry?
I think that's a pretty reasonable deal. I mean, that means we have financial flexibility going forward, which is huge. I think I'd take him over Conley too, just because, one, I think Lowry's a little bit of a better player. If you look at their career averages, they're about the same, but you got to factor in that Lowry didn't really start any games until his like 7th season or something like that. He was a late bloomer.
Yeah.
And also, you look in the last few seasons, Conley just hasn't been available. I mean, look at his past 4 seasons. I mean, he only played 12 games in 2017, 2019 only 47, and 2020 only 51. He's
definitely been in and out of the lineup, especially in the playoffs. That was a big deal for the Jazz. I mean, they really missed him. Availability is one of the best abilities, as I think NFL coaches are one to say. Next guy, I'm really excited to talk about this next player. I'm really excited to talk about Spencer Dinwiddie because I feel like he is not talked about enough as a guy who's kind of in a similar mold of like what we're trying to fit Lonzo into, of a young younger up and coming point guard who just declined his player option, mind you, 2 days ago. And is looking for a reasonable payday. He's not going to get maxed. He's looking for something reasonable. He probably wants to play for a team that's contending, but can still kind of give him the bag. That's kind of what the Bulls are this offseason. Let's open it up. I'll start with you, Riley. Spencer Dinwiddie, what are your thoughts initially, and what would you give him?
Something like a priority point guard here, but I feel like he could probably definitely still help out the Bulls. I feel like he's going to fly under the radar come in free agency, so you might be able to get him on a cheaper deal Moncton.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that we all kind of sit around bemoaning about is the fact that he was on our team and we cut him. Well, Garpax cut him. So we could have had him for a hometown discount, but nope. Wrigley, Spencer Dinwiddie, what do you see strengths, weaknesses wise, and what do you think his fit could be for the Bulls?
Strength, weaknesses wise, he's shown flashes of being a really talented player. He hasn't been able to crack the starting lineup a lot for Brooklyn, but you look at the most recent season where he started a lot of games. That was not this season, but last one when Kyrie missed a lot of games. He was averaging 20 points a game and almost 7 assists. He could be a great fit on this team. I just think he just fills a lot of needs, and I think 2 reasons he fits better financially. He probably won't get as much money because he's coming off that injury, kind of going under the radar.
Yeah.
And the Nets, I don't see them matching like a contract for him or anything. One, they don't have the money, and 2, he doesn't really have a role there since they already have Kyrie and Harden.
Right, absolutely. I mean, he was definitely supposed to be a part of that super team that, it would have worked out if everyone had stayed healthy. It's just not how things go in the NBA, unfortunately. For Dinwiddie versus Lonzo, like, what do you think the contract difference would be? Like, do you think Dinwiddie's getting $5 million less because he was injured last season? What do you think about that, Wrigley?
Yeah, I think the whole Dinwiddie being injured, plus Lonzo kind of has, I feel like, bigger name recognition in the NBA.
It's true.
Just because he was the number 2 pick. His dad promoted him a lot.
Yeah.
I think Dinwiddie gets significantly less money. Plus, I think the Pelicans will be able to drive up Ball's market a lot more than the Nets will do with Dinwiddie.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Being a restricted free agent kind of inflates your price a little bit because you start a bidding war between the incumbent team and possible free agent teams. So definitely a little different situation when you're unrestricted like Dinwiddie is. Also, he gets his pick. He gets to choose which team he wants. If he wants to take a discount, he can. Lonzo's not really at that point. He can't really take a discount. If he takes a discount, the Pelicans will match that. So, Davey, what do you think about Spencer Dinwiddie? Is he someone that you feel like, would you be happy if Spencer Dinwiddie was your starting point guard next season?
I would. I think that I agree with what Riley said. I feel like he'll be a steal. He's definitely going under the radar because of his injury, and that he's a really great talent that people are just skipping out on, and whoever picks him up will be a steal. Hopefully it's us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it'd be nice to get a steal at a bargain considering all the different needs that we have depth wise. It feels weird as a team that's like not very good being so cap strapped. It just, sometimes it's like, how do these super teams do it? And a lot of it is sign and trades because you need to go over the cap to get these guys. But a lot of it is free agent acquisition, and that this would be a solid free agent acquisition, not like a huge fish, but a solid guy that you don't have to pay a lot of money for. And Nick, I'll ask you the same question. Would you be comfortable with Spencer Dinwiddie being your starting point guard next season?
I would. 2 reasons why. If we get Dinwiddie, I feel like we make the playoffs. And then 2, he don't hurt our cap, and we can still sign other players, that we need. So I'm all for Spencer Dinwiddie.
Cool. Absolutely. Now here's another guy that is on the trade market and might not be necessarily available depending on where the Celtics end up taking their offseason. They just traded away Kemba Walker. And obviously now they're in the search for a new head coach as Brad Stevens joins the front office. And they kind of, we don't need to get too far into it, but I feel like they kind of got fleeced in the Kemba deal. Like, I don't know, that deal wasn't great in my personal opinion. But the name is Marcus Smart. He keeps coming up as a guy who the Celtics might want to move on from this offseason. We could keep the talk about Smart pretty brief just because it's unknown whether he would be a potential trade target for the Bulls. It's just who knows what the Celtics are doing. I'll go back to Davey on this one. Marcus Smart, would you want to trade for him or would you want to just kind of move on from that?
I would want to trade for him, but the problem is I think we'd have to get too much to acquire him because the Celtics already traded away Kemba. And so after that, they don't really have any other point guards unless they get some big name in free agency. It's just like,
Yeah.
there's no reason. There really is no reason for them to trade Smart. So we probably have to give up somebody like Kobe or Thad, which I don't want to do. So.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point. The Celtics are going to be in the same market that we are. They're going to be looking at all the guys we just talked about this offseason in the same fashion because they do need a point guard. Now, they have less money than we do. I would imagine they have so many fucking good players. But I'll toss it over to Wrigley. Marcus Smart, do you want him, first of all? And if you do, what would you give up to get him?
Well, I wrote a lot about this, and I would love to have Marcus Smart on this team. I think he brings – the Bulls don't really have right now is kind of that energy player, that player that just gives 110%. That sounds really cliche. Whenever he's on the court, and that's Marcus Smart. You just see, like, every game, he's just making this insane play just because he's putting more effort in than everyone else there.
Right.
Plus, he'd be a good fit stats-wise. I mean, he's a good facilitator. He plays insanely good defense, which would kind of mask up Zach LaVine, which would be really nice. He's probably the one guy I would give up some decent assets for. I love Kobe, but if the Celtics want him, I might give him up for a Marcus Smart and plus like a Lauri Markkanen sign and trade or something like that.
It's an interesting idea. I feel like we're making the Celtics too good. Like, I feel like that helps the Celtics a lot, giving them Lauri and Kobe. I don't know. I'm of the opinion that I want Lauri Markkanen off of my team, but I still believe that the next team he goes to, he's actually going to be good for. It's just a weird, quirky thing with the Bulls that I feel like is just going to happen. Riley, Marcus Smart, yes, no, maybe so. What would you give him, or what would you give up to get him?
It really just depends on the price. I mean, I'd give up Lowry and some picks or something, but I just don't know if he can be like a point guard on a championship team, like a starting point guard on a championship team. Yeah,
and it's interesting that the Celtics have never really invested in him as their starting point guard. Like, I feel like he plays the two guard more for them, or, you know, kind of a two-way guard for them. Switching back and forth between point guard and shooting guard. I don't know. I mean, I know he can be a true point guard. I just feel like it's kind of sus that the Celtics never really invested in him in that regard. They've always been trying to find point guards from outside Terry Rozier, Kemba Walker. Like, they've never really let Marcus Smart take over that role. And I don't know. Maybe they will. Maybe he won't be on the trade market. Nick, I don't think I got into you yet. Marcus Smart, how do you feel about him?
I mean, if we could get him, cool. But it's like, it really depends. He's somebody who's have to give up value for. And I know after this year, he's going to be a free agent. Yeah, so it's like,
yeah,
it really just depends. But I don't know. Like, if we can get him, cool.
Yeah.
But like, I give up Lowry, but I don't know if I'll give up Kobe.
Yeah, I think I like Kobe. We already talked about that. I don't think I'd give up Kobe for Marcus Smart necessarily. I guess it depends what else. Like, if they're willing to take on Aminu's contract too, maybe throw in Kobe and, you know, get rid of that contract, and maybe then you could get some other like veteran players to fill out the rest of the roster. There's so many avenues that the front office can take this offseason. And we'll get to our last point guard that we're going to talk about in terms of players who are already in the NBA, because we still got to get to the draft lottery. But there's this guy who plays in Portland who may or may not be on the trade block, depending on how he feels about the future of the organization. His name's Damian Lillard. We just have to talk about it because it's out there and we have to talk about it. I'll kick it off with Riley. Is Damian Lillard even like a possibility? Could it even happen?
If it was possible, they're going to want a lot out of him. I'm not sure if it's worth it for the Bulls to give up that much for him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the idea is to pair him and Zach, but like, you got to give up everything else. You have to give up Patrick Williams to get Damian Lillard, don't you?
I would assume, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Wrigley, Damian Lillard, what would you do it? Is it possible?
I don't think I'd do it. I mean, I don't know what the Bulls have that the Trailblazers really want outside of maybe Patrick Williams.
Yeah.
I just think there's a lot of other teams out there that could package together more picks, young players, all that good stuff to actually get Dame.
Yeah. And we kind of talked about it with Ben Simmons. Like, that might be the Trailblazers might be looking to add players to put around Dame, not looking to deal Dame necessarily. I think this comes down to whether Dame demands a trade. I don't know. Davey, what do you think? Do you think Dame could demand a trade? Is that possible?
I don't know. I mean, there are rumors saying that he is controlling who might be a part of the staff, or he gets like a say in who's part of the staff.
Yeah.
So if that is true, I don't see him requesting a trade.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, they're looking at Becky Hammon. I hope they hire her. That would be awesome for the sport. But yeah, I mean, if he's so involved with the front office decisions, probably not going to trade him. Nick, any thoughts about Damian Lillard? Like say you're AK and you give the Trailblazers a phone call. Like, is there an offer anywhere in the realm of possibility that the Bulls could give that the Trailblazers would be like, okay, I'll do that?
I mean, it really depends on how tonight goes with the draft. With that pick, you can throw that pick. You can throw Kobe.
That's a great point. That's a great
Pat. I don't want to give up Pat, but you probably got to throw in Pat.
Yeah. But okay.
It really depends on that pick.
But that's sounding like a package there. That's a good deal. You're talking about Kobe White, Patrick Williams, and that number 4 overall pick. That's the kind of package that could get you a superstar player. It would suck to give up Patrick Williams, don't get me wrong. But that's the kind of pick that gets you a Damian Lillard. You know, that number 4 overall pick. That's what puts the deal over the top. So that provides us a great segue, boys. The NBA draft lottery commences tonight. The Bulls have a 20.3 chance to move into the top 4. Well, do you guys know what the number 1 overall pick chances are? I don't have it off the top of my head. Let's see.
Like 1% or something.
I know Houston has like the biggest odds.
We have a 4.5% chance to get the number 1 overall pick. Not looking great.
Anything is possible.
Anything's possible. Not looking great. But the top 3 teams all have a 14% chance at that number 1 overall pick. If you look at it this way, so if you look at Chicago, Sacramento, New Orleans, those teams combined have like about a 60% chance to move into the top 4. So when you look at it that way, like a 60% chance of one of those 3 teams moving into the top 4, the odds feel a little more in our favor. I know it doesn't feel great, because it's not looking great. If we don't get a top 4 pick, the pick goes to the Magic. I mean, those are just facts. There's really no question. But I guess I'll toss it out to the field. I'll start with you, Wrigley. Do you think the Bulls are going to get a top 4 pick? Like, what do you feel? Like, what's your juju? What's your vibe?
I'm not feeling it. I wish I could say I was. I would love for us to get a top 4 pick. Number 1 would be awesome. Obviously, Cade, I think, is a generational talent. But anywhere in the top 4 would be just perfect. It would make the Vooch trade just seem so much better. But I'm just not feeling it.
Not feeling it. All right. Hypothetically, Wrigley, say it happens. We get a top 4 pick. Who do you want? And at what point would you trade it? Like, if it's a 3 or a 4, would you trade it? Or would you stay there for Mobley? Like, who do you want?
Obviously, I'd take Cade if we get number 1.
Okay.
I'm not sure that Suggs is a perfect fit on this team, but I think when you have a player as talented as him, it doesn't mean everything. So I take him. 3 or 4, if it's just like Mobley in the field available, I think I'd trade down. I think you can get good value trading into like the 7, 8, somewhere in that range, and maybe we can get assets for next year or something, some sort of other pick. Are there any teams that have like 2 lottery picks this year or anything? Do you know?
This year, I don't think so. I know the Celtics traded with that Kemba trade. They got rid of their other first round pick. Obviously, the Magic have 2.
They got all the picks.
Yeah, OKC has a ton of picks, but they're buyers, bro. They'll take whatever you got. Like they're not trying to sell any of those picks. You know, they want to keep taking on bad contracts and picks. They're gonna keep accumulating picks. So I don't think they'll trade any of those picks. But the Magic have 2 firsts because of us, and I think that's it in the lottery. So. No, but to your point, Wrigley, Arturas Karnisovas is known for finding talent later in the draft. So, like, yeah, if you're at the 3 or the 4 and you don't feel great about who's available, trade back, get some more assets, let Arturas do what Arturas does. I mean, getting a top 4 pick right now is kind of gravy Like it's just an added bonus to the Vooch trade. If we manage to get it, it's magical. No pun intended. It just, it's gravy on the trade. If we don't get it, we don't get it. We already made the trade. It's over and done with. I'll kick it over to Nick now. What do you think? If the Bulls get a top 4 pick, do you keep it? Do you trade it? Who would you want to pick if you kept it? What do you think?
Well, okay, if he's available.
Yeah.
And then it's, Jalen Suggs, the Greens.
Yeah.
I'm not against trading it, but it'd be like, what are we trading it for? You get what I'm saying? So.
Yeah. Well, that's the question. Like, if you want to package it in for another star, look at it this way: you get the number 4 overall pick. Would you trade that for Lonzo? Anyone? I'm
iffy because I want Lonzo, but
it's the potential versus the unknown, I guess, of the draft versus what we know in Lonzo.
Because this draft class is really stacked to me. If it was last year's draft class, I'd say yeah.
Yeah.
This draft class is really stacked.
Davey, what do you think, man? Would you trade that pick for Lonzo if it's number 4?
No, I'm not trading it for Lonzo.
Who would you trade it for?
If we're getting like a second star, like the Damian Lillard thing, yes, I'd probably trade it. I'd definitely trade it for him.
Yeah.
But unless it's like some type of star or some type of all-star, maybe I might trade it for Ben Simmons. But besides that, not really anybody else.
All right, let me throw another one out there for you guys, and I'll give it to Riley first, but I want everyone to answer. If you get the number 1 overall pick, would you trade that for Dame instead of picking Cade?
I'd pick Cade. I wouldn't trade it.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes, no?
I'm definitely taking Cade with that pick. I mean, not only could Cade be just like a player that's on the same level as Dame, not that I'm saying he's going to be as good as Dame, but there's a possibility there. But I mean, Dame's making like $45 million a year annually, and
that's going up.
Contract for even though Cade's the number 1 overall pick, he offers you a lot more financial flexibility going down the line than Dame does.
No, you're right. Davey, Nick, one of you guys, what do you think? Number 1 overall pick? Will you trade that for Damian Lillard?
I wouldn't do it.
No.
Dame's obviously a superstar, but like you said, flexibility cap.
Okay. Yeah.
Much better with Cade.
You're right. I think for me, the perspective is like, Zach and Vooch aren't getting any younger, but Cade is already such a transcendent talent that it might not matter. He might just come into the NBA and set the whole fucking world on fire. Shit. Well, I think we covered everything I wanted to get to. Do you guys have any good luck charms that you want to throw out there to give us some good luck tonight at the draft lottery? Like what are you guys doing, I guess, at home to give the team good luck?
Praying.
They're praying to a photo of Adam Silver. Please rig it in our favor.
Mantras.
Say that again.
Saying mantras.
I want to find out where the Rockets are going to pick. Imagine if the Rockets tank the whole season and they don't even get a...
Give me y'all top 4 positions. Like, who y'all think gonna get what picks 1 through 4?
Biased or unbiased?
Unbiased.
The Bulls probably won't get a top 4 pick if I'm being totally realistic about it. But I still feel good about it. Like I said, the 60% of those 3 teams moving into the top 4, I still feel good about that. I don't know, man. It's such a crapshoot with the way that we got good luck last year. I don't know, but there is a nightmare scenario where like the Magic get a top 4 pick because of their own pick and then get the number 5 overall pick because of our pick. Like that's still that could still happen, That's scary.
Yeah.
That is scary. Well, was there anything you guys wanted to cover that I missed? Feel free to chime in. Take the floor.
Nothing.
We feeling good? Wrigley, I know you said you weren't feeling it, but to have a positive attitude. PMA, positive mental attitude. We could get this top 4 pick. Fuck, we could get number 1 overall. I did a lottery sim tonight. I got number 1 on my first try.
Well, I think that's it. I think that's our good luck charm right there.
Yeah. And you could watch it. It's on YouTube. You guys could go watch it. But I think we'll call it there. This was a fun one, guys. This was a really good one. Don't forget to go read that awesome article, once again, by Riley and Wrigley on arturasfanclub.com/blog. All of the links will be in the description, whether you're watching this on YouTube or listening on your podcast app. You'll be able to find all that stuff. Don't forget to rate and review the podcast on whatever platform you listen to it. It helps us a lot. Once again, our guests, Riley at Daniel Tice Season on Twitter, Wrigley at Wrigley Court on Twitter, Davey at DXVY_MP4 on Twitter, and Nick at FamousNick123 on Twitter. I am Ross from Arturas Fan Club. Easy to find me on all platforms. We will see you guys here very soon. Good luck to the Bulls. Good luck to the fans in case it doesn't go super hot, because we'll need some consoling. Make sure to check out my YouTube channel, Arturas Fan Club. Thanks for hopping on, guys. This was a lot of fun.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
Peace out.
Thanks for having me.
Go Bulls.
Go Bulls.
Top 4.
Top 4, baby.